here doing a quick recording for Ad Design class for Wednesday, working on the beginning of the outside cover of our trifold brochure, converting the Lumina trifold template into the Las Palmas poster 10-page menu. So we're converting it from a 10-page poster style, we call it saddle stitch, but I think it's spiral bound in the restaurant, over to a takeout trifold menu. So we're going to simplify some of the elements, reformat this thing in a trifold environment using Las Palmas assets. So at the beginning of the class, I asked you to create a menu folder, and inside the menu folder, I asked you to move over the Las Palmas.pdf menu, the Lumina menu.pdf that we downloaded, our menu 1 and menu 2 PSD files in here, and also the assets I put in the announcement section for today. So it is a sunset image, a palm tree illustrator file, a wood texture, and the Las Palmas logo. So everyone should have a menu, should have a folder with all our assets in it. Okay, so we started off class with opening up our menu 1. So menu1.psd, which is the outside cover. Remember, it was this one, the one that we cut the 3 panels out of. Remember, we have our safety lines. So we have the safety lines that give us a little room around the edge, and we have the 2 safety lines that mark the folding areas inside of our trifold brochure. Now, so I asked you at the beginning of the class to open up menu1.psd and also the cover of the first page of the Las Palmas menu. And at the beginning of class, we took our selection tool and we selected the top stripe and did Command C. And over here, we did Command V. And we named that stripes in our layers palette over here, and we used our move tool and we moved it up to the top corner of our design. Now I'm going to move my safety line just down a little bit because in our lecture we had this a little bit further down at the top there. All right, so we did that, and remember this was 9.5 by 14.25, 300 dpi on this menu page, and we copied into 11 inches wide by 300 dpi. That's why the image doesn't fill the page. So we went ahead and moved it, and then I asked you in your layers palette to duplicate that layers. So here is our duplicate copy, and we also went to the edge and held down shift and rotated this 180 degrees so we could match it up. So we have a full stripe here. And so there is our full stripe. So we just matched it up. Now, once we had now 2 layers, stripe, copy, and stripe, and we had them exactly where we wanted them position-wise, we went over here and we held down shift and selected both our stripe layers, and we chose to merge those layers, or we went to layer, merge layers, because now it's one object. The reason we did that was because we wanted to make a duplicate copy of those stripes and move them down to the bottom. And so I'm going to move my safety line a little bit so that this is about the same top and bottom. And so we have now the stripe along the top and the stripe along the bottom. Now, when we were in class, I said, man, I'd really like for this bottom stripe to be the opposite. So we held down shift and we rotated it to the opposite. So now we have it, we have it as opposite. There we go. So now we have our 2 stripes set up inside of our Photoshop file. So we're mimicking this. Now, the next thing we did was we brought in the wood texture because the background of this menu in Las Palmas is white wood. And so we went in and we grabbed the wood texture. We did select all. We did Command C to copy. And then we selected our stripes layer and we pasted it. And we actually moved the wood layer over here in the layers palette to under the stripes, right? So it's under the stripes. Now, the image is too small. We're going to name this wood texture. So we talked about what a smart object looks like, fills and strokes, versus a regular rasterized or pixel-based layer. And when you bring an image in that's too small, you can do what's called convert to smart object. So if you control click on your wood texture layer, we can convert it to a smart object, which gives us this little icon down here. So we're going to convert it to a smart object. We're going to scale it up, hit return. So here it is. And we actually tried to position this thing so that one of the stripes in the wood was kind of in the middle of the trifold. And so I'm going to use my arrow keys and nudge it so it lines up with this red, the edge of this red stripe right here, just to kind of center it a little bit. It is texture, so in essence, it's our background layer. So you can see it right here. It's the very bottom layer. But it is kind of nice, even though the texture is just going to be, in essence, our background layer, to have kind of some vertical alignment of kind of the lines of the wood with the stripe pattern of the top stripe and bottom stripe. All right. Once we have scaled it to our 100% output or our finished size, we want to go over and reconvert it to a raster layer. So if you control click on the now created smart object, you can choose rasterize layer, or you can choose it from here. You can do layer, rasterize layer, and that will give us now pixels. We need to be back in pixel world so we can use the best of Photoshop in order to manipulate our trifold menu brochure. And so I'm going to deselect. So we have our wood texture. Now we're going to start building this cover page only in this little right panel of our trifold brochure. So the next thing we did was we did file open, and we chose the sunset file. So we're going to click OK. We're going to do Command A to select all. We're going to do Command C to copy. And then we're going to do Command V. We're going to select our wood texture layer and Command V to paste. Oh, and look, we have the same problem we had with the wood texture. So let's control click, convert it to a smart object. We're going to scale up the sunset so that it at least fills our page. So there it is. And we're going to center the sunset. So there's the sunset right there. We're going to center it on our cover panel, and we're going to hit return. Now, once we smart object scaled it up, we're going to name it sunset, and we're going to convert it back to pixels. So we're going to do rasterize layer. You can do it from up here too. Rasterize layer, and now it is a pixel-based image in our design. Now, we need it just to show in our front cover. And Brayson so smartly said, hey, we have to make it a layer mask. So if we draw our selection box, so you see our marching ants, if we draw our rectangular selection box just over the right panel of our trifold, we can go over here to the layers palette and hit this little icon right here that says layer mask. And it will cut the sunrise or sunset to just this panel. The reason we kept this area over here is because it's a full bleed. So we want the edge of the document to have the sunset. So we're starting to mimic what this image is over here using our Photoshop techniques. So now we need the palm trees. See the palm trees here? So let's do File, Open, and let's pick the palm trees. Now we talked about the fact that this is an Illustrator file. We could double click on this file inside our menu folder and open it up in Illustrator and do Command A, Command C, and come into Photoshop and do Command V and paste it as a smart object. But you can also do File, Open, and open it as a layer object. So we're going to open it up. We're going to do Command A, Command C. We're going to do Command V, and here it is, enormous. So let's make it smaller. So we got to try to mimic kind of what's going on in the Las Palmas. So we're going to make it smaller. just a little bit. And so now we have part of the palm trees. That's nice. Part of the sunset. And I'm going to hit return. And we're going to name this palm trees. Now, in class, we talked about how we could use texture in layers underneath layers to affect the layer that we have selected. And we, in class, changed this to multiply. So you can start to get that image that is bleeding through the sunset image. We're going to play with contrast and play with levels and add a little glow behind the logo to kind of mimic this style. But we're starting to just kind of drop these things in and start to build the layers and the effects that is this particular design or menu. So multiply is really great. Overlay is a really nice feature too. So we could choose overlay instead of, and you would get even more toxic an image. So we'll see how it goes as we play inside of Photoshop, as we recreate this menu. Now, the last thing we did in class so that we have our file prepped for next week was we opened up our Las Palmas logo, and we did Command A, Command C, and we did Command V. And here is our logo. And this is where we need to be for Friday so that we can continue the creation of this image, this cover. We're going to do a better drink. We're going to do a better, more professional photo of food, I think. But we're going to start there. We'll probably play around with our bleed here and see what we can get that gives us the best version. Ooh, that's kind of fun. Of our watermark images on the cover, but we'll see how it goes as we build it. Okay, gang, I'm going to save this. Have a good midweek. I'll see you guys on Friday.